All right, Ags, from the game to big news out of the recruiting world just now, just moments ago, to the officials' call. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to digest and get off our chest. But before we get into it too deep, we got to start off with Evan Stewart, who just committed moments ago. He's a 5-star wide receiver, and I think this says that we're going to make a run for number one. It puts the number one spot on notice. This guy's a 5-star recruit. He's the number 3 in the nation. So this puts us with the number 2 and number 3 recruit, with 3 more in the top 15 or top 20 for sure, and a slew of others in the top 100 that we're after already have. We just hit the 16 mark threshold, which if you've been following my series on the quest for 16, that puts us there right now, and we still have, I think, 5 spots to go that we can add, because 16 is that magic number where you want to have that blue chip ratio at 16 of your 25 commits, right? So huge commit. If nothing else too, does this not just say that Jimbo is addressing needs in the best kind of way? We have been feeling that wide receiver woe all year long, and this really just, man, makes you feel good to see that this has been an area that's going to get addressed. So we do need the talent there. We added Demas a couple years ago, and we're doing good there. We're making moves with Moose and bringing along the guys that have already been there, previous recruitments, but this really helps out. So number one, watch out. We're coming for you. Big recruitment and commitment from Evan Stewart. So we're going to see who falls next. This puts people like, Cam Dewberry in the mix. We've talked about him and where he was at when Walter Nolan committed. This puts people like, Perkins on notice still and keeps him interested if he was thinking about going over to LSU with all the stuff that's going on there. With all the movement in the coaching world, and Lincoln Riley leaving OU for USC, and Dindy having committed there recently, he could be back on the table, and I wouldn't put us out of there. So he's really evaluating that, and it's gonna probably give us a pretty hard look. I would expect him to do that. So we'll see who else is going to come along. Hoping for Shamar Stewart, maybe a flip from Kelvin Banks. We'll have to see. Anthony Lucas, Anaya White, who knows? A lot of possibilities out there, and it looks really good. So at the beginning of the year, if you would have told me we were going to win 8 games and lose 4, I would have not been happy with that. 2 games after that, and just barely beating Colorado and knowing we were going to have, a backup quarterback for pretty much the rest of the season, and then seeing us lose to Arkansas and Mississippi State, I would have taken 8-4 for sure. So finished up the regular season there. A little bittersweet, especially with the way the LSU game ended up. So let's go ahead and talk about some of this. We do have a lot to consider. First off, I just want to reflect back on the preview from the game. I hope I led you in the right direction. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm not going to. I'm going to shoot straight with you. I'm not going to just take the Aggies because it's the Aggies and be a complete homer. I think I gave you an honest review on that one. I think it was every bit exactly as I said that it would be, considering that it was a prediction. That was a hard-fought game. They brought their A game. They had a lot to play for. We knew they did, and that's what we talked about in the preview. It was senior night. It was Ed O's last game, and they were playing for a bowl game. They wanted to play, play in the bowl. So they had 3 excellent reasons to play hard, and they did. And they gave us every bit that we wanted to. Hats off to them. And just kind of thinking about the way some of this game played out, we had 54 yards rushing, 296 total yards. Calzada went 20 for 35 for a 57% completion rating. Calzada had a decent game. I had said that if he were to get 60%, we'd probably win this game. I said that they were probably going to be able to make us one-dimensional. And if they did, that was going to be a problem. And it's what they did, and it was a problem. We have issues stemming from quarterback to wide receiver, and those are things that have been there all season. That's what we talked about. So we can get into those a little bit more too. I want to not necessarily break those down, but just kind of be critical of them and talk about them. There are areas for growth. So before we get into it too much more than that, I'm going to first off say, Calzada, again, he played a good game. This is a good guy, and he's a good quarterback. And anything said negative about his character, about him personally, needs to be called out. You see it, you need to call it out. If I see it, I'm going to call it out. It's BS, and I've heard there's some stuff that's going on, maybe death threats, maybe just real derogatory stuff. It's uncalled for. Aggies should not be doing that. So if I see you doing that, if I see others doing it, I'm calling it out. You should do the same. It's just there's no place for that. That's not an Aggie way. So keep that in mind. But when we're being critical of him, that is not talking about his character, and that's not talking down about him. It's just talking about the performance. There's a difference. We're not talking about the person. We're talking about the performance. And so with that being said, a lot of the woes that we saw stem from some of the way that he plays. It stems from a lot of other ways that he plays. And I'm sorry, way others play and different things. We've talked about drops from wide receivers. We can even get into some of the missed tackles that happened during that game at key moments, some of the blown coverages that took place. I mean, there's a lot of, in a sense, blame that could go around. I don't like to refer to it as blame, but it's just things that are, these are the reasons why we ended up losing this game. So, he tends to take the O out of the RPO, which is, it's kind of understood, to be honest. I mean, he's injured. We only have a third string backup. We don't want him to be doing a lot of optioning, but that makes us one-dimensional if he's not going to run. Sure, we can throw it, we can hand it off, but those are just, that's part of the game that gets taken off the table. So one of the things that they did was they crowded the box a lot all game long, 8 people. And we ran right into it quite a few times, and that's not a good recipe. And we've got to be able to check out of those kinds of things and run some sort of different play. Something to the edge. We saw successful a few times. Hot routes we don't often see. So there's other things that he can grow on to make himself and the team better. And, I think we got more out of him than what we would have expected to get out of him in any other situation. I think he played above his means for most of the season. He had some down games, but he had some up games, and overall I think he learned a lot. And he's poised to make a run in the spring and the fall and win the job back in the fall. We'll see. Haynes King's going to have something to say about it, but this guy's got a lot of experience now, and he can really put it where it needs to go. So we were 3 of 14 on third downs, and some of the reasons for those are some of the inaccuracies, some of the hard-thrown balls, and when those aren't in the chest, they're hard to catch. The quarterback is the most crucial spot on the field, and that's why we have to talk about that so much. Still good game from him. We could have won this game even though we did not play that well. We really did not play very well at all, and we were still in this game and probably should have won it despite the penalty that wasn't called on those last few plays. That push off, despite the non-call and the turnover for forward progress. So, that in a sadistic kind of way, that's pretty encouraging to know how bad we played and how much we were still in this game. So, a lot of great takeaways, though. A lot of great takeaways. We saw a lot of good plays throughout this game, particularly from Michael Clemens, and that guy has raised his stock. Him and Tyree Johnson, I really hope to see them at the next level at some capacity, and hope it is long-lasting. Those guys have really done well to make themselves a platform. Peavy as well by coming back that last year. I don't think Tyree was that took the extra year, but I believe he is a senior and plans to go. So what a pretty amazing regular season and game from those guys there. Definitely not happy about the non-call. It doesn't look good. In my opinion, it looks shady as all get out. And we could have won the game in a lot of other ways. Absolutely, we could have. One play here, one play there. The trouble is with that argument is that you can make that argument on any time an official makes a bad blown call. The problem is that the officials are never really doing any better. They're never really held accountable. And, but the players are. The players don't get the win. The program doesn't get the win. And so the players are the ones that suffer, not the officials, and that shouldn't be. If you have a problem with that play, and then I don't really know. I don't have what to say to you about that. The referees should not be determining outcomes in games. I am not somebody, and you see this in basketball a lot. You hear people say, "Well, they should just swallow their whistle at the end of the game." That absolutely incorrect in my opinion. Absolutely. If there's a foul at the end of a game, a referee should call it. It is just as bad not to call the foul when it should have been called there than it is to call it when it's not there. It affects the outcome in a negative way. Whether or not the only way not to affect it in a negative way is to call it fair, which means to call the fouls when they happen, call the play the way that it should go. You also hear people say like, well, they compare teams and they see one team shot 20 free throws and the other team only shot 7 free throws, and they think that's a disparity. The only way that's a disparity is if one team actually, or if both teams actually fouled each other the same amount. That's the only way it matters. If they don't foul each other the same amount, then I would not expect that the free throws would be the same. That's ridiculous. That is the most absurd thing I hear in sports and those kinds of things. This call should have been made in a fair way. It should have been made on the way that it was called. It should have been done in a way that was kosher. Them blowing the whistle after we had the ball and then coming back and deciding forward progress was stop and watch the play. I've got it on the channel. Some people have some problems with it. Tell me where the forward progress stops. That's with like, a minute 30 left, and that's a turnover. That's a big deal. And we can rewind, 2 years back to the Georgia game when we're driving down, and there's multiple holding calls not being called. All we're asking for is a fair shake here. That's all I'm asking for. Fair shake. Give me the fair shake. Okay? I'm not asking for any favors. I'm asking you to do your job. Do your job. That's what you're supposed to do. Somebody explain to me why that play should not have been called the way that we're advocating for that to be called. It was called forward progress was met, and so the turnover was not so. Give it to me. We're going to be looking at some of the rules now that the season's over, so that's going to be fun and interesting. We're going to start off with the targeting rule. We'll save that for another day, maybe tomorrow. But yeah, it's a big deal. Just do your job. Same thing I tell my people, and same thing my boss tells me. There's certain aspects that you should just do your job. You don't get to whine and complain about things whenever people do their jobs. Somebody's job was not being done. Okay? So that's the way I feel about that. And that's all there is to it. That's the way it's going to be. So I wish we would have made the plays and that would not have been needed. If it's possible, that's all. Like I said, that's always possible. You just hate to see whenever the game gets taken out of your hands. I just hate that for the players. I hate it for the players. They work hard. They shouldn't have to go through that. So that's why I've got a problem with that call. Okay? That's why I've got a problem with that call. So, with that being said, that's enough of a rant for that. We're 8-4, and we just pulled in the number 3 recruit in the nation. Something's going in the right direction. We've talked about it. I'm looking for more dominoes to fall. It's going to be fantastic. We got early signing day here in just a couple weeks, and we got a bowl game coming up. So we got some crumbs to pick up, just like Leon says. I'm excited, very excited. So let's go see what happens for the next 2 weeks, and then what we're going to get in the bowl game, and we'll do a preview for that too, and then we'll go from there. Until then, gig 'em.